Annie Hall from 1937, starring Woody Allen, of course, Diane Keaton, Tony Roberts. Quick logline: Alvy Singer, a divorced Jewish comedian, reflects on his relationship with ex-lover Annie Hall, an aspiring nightclub singer, which ended abruptly, just like his previous marriages. I mean, this is sort of his core text of like relationship trouble, somebody who's neurotic, constantly through a midlife crisis, does not trust himself. Um, Bunch of different people come through his life, women is primarily, but also his friends, his one guy friend that we see. And it sort of just doesn't work with really anybody until he does find somebody in Annie Hall, Diane Keaton's character, where there is something and something works, and how he and the circumstances sort of blows it all up. And yes, it's heightened and zany, and in this period, not as zany as I guess Sleeper and Bananas, but it is heightened because archetypes are being played and highlighted, whether it's New Yorkers or people from LA or Hollywood. Like everybody is heightened, everybody is a New Yorker cartoon in their own right.
Hmm.
But through all of that, there is something to me very real about relationships and humanity, is that you have to take that leap and you have to trust yourself and you have to make room for relationships, almost like an anti breakup movie, if you will, because by seeing how he handles things, you sort of start to realize that, oh no, you had it good, you
Hmm.
know, and this is what not to do. And through all this, of course, what shines is Diane Keaton, I think, who, of course, there's the iconic clothing and all of that, but you see like a true arc of this person who, from the first scene when they meet, the la di da scene that I mocked in the beginning of the podcast, she's sort of unsure and just wants to be whatever he wants, and kind of lives in this apartment, and I don't know where her life is going, and then is always sort of feels that, oh, maybe she's not as smart as him, or is often made to feel that way, even though he's not trying to do that, but he is sort of trying to do that by telling her, oh, you should read more books or do this, and finally she comes into her own, I think, by the end of the movie, where she finds what she wants to be. So you see like a full arc of her in the movie, which is, it kind of sneaks up on you. It may not be apparent because his jokes and one-liners and all of those, they take center stage, and I think that's the genius of the movie. And then of course, there are all the rom-com things which have now become tropes of, like I alluded earlier, of the, both of them with their psychologists and having these split screen moments and subtitles to indicate what they're really feeling as opposed to what they're saying. Like there's just so much, and just New York and the music, her singing, like there's just so much in this movie that you can just unpack for a long, long time. So yeah, I think just for what this movie is and what it's kind of imparted to the genre of rom-coms, like this is a masterpiece. And I think whether whatever you might feel about Woody Allen, I think this movie, you probably know of it or you've seen a derivative of it. You can't escape it.
Yeah, I think objectively, this has to be his masterpiece, right? Like this is what he'll the first film listed in his obituary will be this one.
Hmm.
And I think despite the issues that he's had and the public perception of him, like this movie will, I think, stand out despite that over the course of time. I definitely agree with everything you said. This movie just still never works for me. Like I just I can't get behind him in this movie being incredibly annoying, and I just don't get Diane Keaton in this. Obviously, either just doesn't work for me. Like I don't know, I don't care about their romance. I don't understand why they're attracted to each other. It just like none of the things that need to work for all the rest to work just still don't for me. I've bumped up against this from like the first time I saw this back in high school because it's like, oh, this is like one of the biggest movies of all time or most famous. And obviously, yes, it is historic. It had changed the game for the genre and all these sort of things. And there's very inventive style, like the animation portions and the
Oh
breaking the
yeah,
fourth
what about
wall,
that? Yeah.
all that stuff is there. And it still feels fresh, even though now it's been done to death, all these techniques. I don't know. I just can't I can't get past Woody in this movie. Just I don't care about him. Just he's too obnoxious in this for me. I don't know. That's just like this is the quintessential like example of why I don't connect with him because I don't connect with this movie. If there was one movie that, should still work for me despite my in his filmography, it should be this one. And because it doesn't, I think that's just why I'll never really love him as a filmmaker and an artist because I can't like can't get past this. Yeah, it's hard. I'm not doing a very good job of articulating it, but it's one of
No,
those things I just don't it doesn't work for me, but I get why it works and why it is
Mhm.
the movie that it is. I'm not trying to say it's a bad movie in any stretch at all. It just I just don't care. It's like I want it to be over. Like 10 minutes in, I'm like, I don't want to be with these people anymore. Get me out of here. I'll just leave me in LA. That those people seem much more interesting to me than Woody. But yeah, I know we talked about this movie before on our
Yeah.
New York episode, but it's a little, we're expanding on it a bit here. But yeah, that's still my thought. I gave it another try. You never know, right? But that still just bounces right off me.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it, right? Like if this movie doesn't land, I don't think any of his stuff is gonna land because
Right.
this is sort of core text. It's the kind of the apex mountain, if you will, of all of the stuff that he stands for. So that makes sense. I think what I would say is that I think that is the point. Like these people are insufferable and miserable, and they end up screwing what they actually have in life. And that is the point
Hmm.
of the movie. Now, you still have to go through that in watching them. And that can be funny, but it can also be grating. And it depends on sort of where you fall. I find it funny and then often insightful because it sort of exposes something that we all have in ourselves, I think. I have definitely had moments in my life where I've said to, you know, people that I love who are stuck doing the same thing. I'm like, wouldn't it be good if you like read a different book, maybe, maybe not in that way, but I've said annoying things and I've caught myself like, oh my gosh, like what am I saying? This is horrible. I should not be saying that. Or judging somebody or just saying that I don't think you're that smart. Are you? You don't get it. Or what have you, right? So we all have these things. They come out, and most of us who are decent enough to, do a decent enough job, I hope, to kind of keep those sharp edges inside this in this movie, and I guess in the Woody Allen persona, if you will, all those sharp edges are out there always. And sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're grating, and sometimes they expose something truthful about all of us. That's how I read this.
No, that's a good, summation. I still just keep, I don't know. I'll keep coming back to it. It's definitely a movie where I will come back to it every couple of years and be like, do I still find the characters insufferable and too like pompous
No, the
and
answer is yes, they are
maybe,
meant
yeah.
to.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's not what I want out of my
That's the
romantic,
thing.
my romantic comedy, I guess is the thing.
Yeah,
It's maybe I'll have to change before I do like this movie. Again, I appreciate it, and I definitely
Mhm.
think it is doing some groundbreaking things for sure. And I recommend if people haven't seen this to definitely give it a shot. I mean, it's one of those like movies to see before you die for sure. I'm not like saying it should be in jail, like everyone should be jailed. It's not one of those movies which have
No,
come up on the podcast before. It just I bounce. It's like oil and water for me with this. So. But I'm glad you brought it in. I mean, we need if it's Woody Allen, you have to talk about Annie Hall, and
exactly.
I like that you like the movie so much. It's great. I mean, it's a very it's yeah, it's a I'm definitely a minority. I'll say that with this one. I know there's some people have again problems with Woody Allen or maybe don't like his movies, or this
Yeah,
is the one that usually kind of breaks through. But as you can see from my list, I like more of the other side of him than this
yeah,
one. So
yeah.
maybe we'll give it in our episode in like 3 years on something else. I'll give it another shot, and who knows? I might all of a sudden be a big Annie Hall fan.
No, I get it. I totally get it. Like I said, what you're bumping against is the point. The question really is that do you want to stay at that point and does
Right.
that become enjoyable or not? And it's not, and that's totally okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why
Uh,
we have these discussions, and what makes this
exactly.
an interesting episode.
Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.